Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the September 14th Historic Preservation Commission meeting. I see we have a lot of folks here today, and I'm very happy about that. I want to call the meeting to order. Here we go. But 30 seconds after 4, we're starting. Okay, Erica. So I just want to make sure everyone is here. Erica, could you go ahead and tell the public about how they can participate, please?
Sure, I can start with the roll call if you'd like.
Okay,
And
let's
then
do
we
the
can
roll
move
call
on.
first. That's great.
Okay, Chair Collum,
Here.
Vice Chair Rath. Here. Commissioner Barlow.
Here.
Commissioner Dawson.
Here.
Commissioner O'Neill.
Here.
Commissioner Rodriguez.
Here.
And Commissioner Smith-Crivello.
Here.
And I can also announce the staff members present. We have our planning manager, Levi Hill. We have senior associate planner, Chris Schmidt. We have associate planner, Matthew Buggart, and myself, recording secretary, Erica Barrera.
Okay. And did you want to go ahead and inform the public and Erica?
Sure. To join our meetings, members of the public are encouraged to join via Zoom Gov, a secure service that connects you live with no lag time. This meeting is also streamed live on youtube.com/City of Monterey. It's also streamed on Comcast Channel 25. If you would like to provide public comment, please join the meeting using Zoom or by telephone, making sure to join in time to accommodate delays. To join the Zoom meeting from a computer or phone, use the link or phone numbers on the agenda posted at isearchmonterey.org. To join by telephone, dial 833-568-8864, then enter the webinar ID. Today's webinar ID is 161-739-7120. If prompted for a participant ID, press pound. To provide public comment via Zoom, please use the raise your hand function at the bottom of your screen. To provide comments by phone, dial *9 to raise your hand, then *6 to unmute when called upon. Public commenters will be announced using their last 3 phone number digits or the name they've typed into Zoom. Public commenters will be muted until it's their turn to speak. Please turn off TV or computer speakers or go to another room while connected, as background noise interferes with the broadcast. Public speakers will be called upon in order of hands raised. There is a 3-minute time limit for today's meeting. Please stay within that limit. Thank you.
Thank you, Erica. I neglected to introduce someone, a new commissioner, Julie Barlow. Welcome, Julie. I think we had someone very close to you on this commission before.
Not too long ago.
Yes, Chris Barlow, her husband. Okay, very good. And going to the consent agenda here regarding the July 13th minutes, are there any corrections, comments from my colleagues here?
I move that we approve the
Great.
minutes.
Before we act on that, we could just ask if there's any members of the public that want to pull the item from the consent agenda before voting.
I'm sorry, Levi, say that
Can
again.
we just check with that there's any members of the public that want to pull in the item from the consent agenda
Oh,
before acting on it?
okay. All right. Oh, yes, I see that now. Any member of the public would like to discuss a consent item. Do we have anybody from the public responding?
There's one attendee, but their hands are not raised.
They're not. Okay, then I'd like to accept Commissioner Smith-Crivello's motion to approve the minutes of July. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Carol. Okay, that's been, all in favor.
Aye.
Aye.
Good.
Me too.
Okay, do we have to have any reasons why they're abstaining?
That we weren't here.
Yeah, I wasn't here.
That's right. Okay, I thought you were on Zoom, but I guess not. Okay, sorry. Sorry about that.
The minutes
And
are approved.
and you are brand new, so of course you would abstain. Okay, thank you very much. So it looks like everyone's in favor. Can we move on then? Levi, is that okay?
Yeah, we can move on for public communications.
All right. Let's see. I was just wondering about any comments from the public that are not on the agenda. Any consent items, I guess.
There are no hands raised.
No hands raised. All right. And let's see. Why don't we just go on to the first public appearance? Is that all right? Because I know we have 3 here today. All right. The first public appearance is to consider 581 Larkin Street or 581 Scott Street for a Millsack contract. And I think, do we have some folks attending, applicant owners? Good, great, welcome. I think we should have the presentation, Levi, from the
That's correct.
city.
Yeah, we'll start with the staff presentation.
Great.
My name is Matthew Buggers, and I'm the associate planner with the City of Monterey Planning Division. Today, we're here to talk with you about 581 Barton Street, formerly known as 581 Scott Street. The historic report refers to it and how it was labeled for many years. This is for both a Mills Act contract and rezoning the property to H2. The recommendation from city staff is that HPC adopt two resolutions. One, to recommend that the Planning Commission recommend to the City Council to adopt an ordinance to rezone the property as a city historic resource from R36 to R36H2. And secondly, to recommend that the City Council approve a Mills Act contract for the property. This includes property tax savings for historic resources and helping to preserve them. The subject property is in the middle of the city, just uphill from the downtown area. It includes property all the way from Larkin Street to Van Buren Street and largely fronts Scott Street. Some background on this property. There was an intensive survey prepared by architectural historian Meg Clovis. And as part of that survey, the property was identified as a local historic resource under criteria 1 and 2. Criteria 1 is that associated with events, that it's associated with an event that is significant, has made a significant contribution to the broad patterns of our history. And criterion 2, person, the property is associated with individuals who have made a significant or exceptional contribution, and in this case, specifically to the city of Monterey. Criterion 1, event, it's eligible under this criteria because the Frank Hellum House is representative of residential development in the lower Old Town during the last quarter of the 19th century. It retains 6 of the 7 aspects of integrity. The one that is missing is workmanship. There's no specific physical evidence of a cultural craftsmanship, but each of the others, location, design, setting, materials, feeling, and association, do apply to the property. Criterion 2, person, Frank Hellum House. It's eligible as the family home of Frank Hellum, but several businesses in Monterey, and the only building that was owned and continuously operated by this family. You may know Frank Hellum from the Hellum Tobacco Shop that is still remaining on Alvarado to this day. Some background photos of Frank Hellum himself. He had a boot stand back in the year 200, way long ago. And eventually moved into a cigar store at the base of the Monterey Hotel in 1903. You can see him down at well, actually, you can't really see him. You can see the shop at the bottom right. And then he moved across the street into 423 Alvarado Street. And you can see him on the far left with the old mustache going on. That's great. This is a view of the Frank Hellum House prior to the second story that was put onto the residence and the garage, which is located behind it. Looking out towards Monterey Bay, much more clear. And as it stands today, there are a number of trees on the property and it still has a nice view of the bay. And residential development has grown up around it. This is a panorama of the frontage of the property. You can see the primary residence just left of the curb cut and some of the old buildings, the tobacco hut and garage a little bit further to the back. And one final view of the property, it's still largely undeveloped all the way from the lower street up to the structure. This is essentially looking from the Perry House today, another one of our Mills Act properties. As mentioned on a previous slide, it retains 6 of the 7 aspects of integrity and some character defining features of the property. As it was originally reviewed, it looked somewhat like it is in this photo. It's wood siding with corner boards. It retains its original window and door openings. It includes a brick chimney, asymmetrical facade with hipped and gables roofs. It's not symmetrical. There's a front dormer with hexagonal shingles, gable returns, a shed roof dormer, and a front entrance with door, surround, and porch. This is roughly how it looks today. There's been some repainting to the exterior and some shaping up of the lot. Any of the trees that were removed on the property were cleared with the city forester for significance. And yeah, it's been shaped up. Some additional features on the property identified within the historic preservation report include the tobacco warehouse briefly mentioned before, the garage, and a masonry wall along the front of the residence, each of which are included in the maintenance plan for preservation into the future. As a side note, there is also an application that has been submitted to the city for a 2-story addition at the interior portion of the property away from the street side that would be connected to the primary residence. This application has not yet been determined complete and has not been scheduled for a public hearing. This is more for disclosure that may be appearing in the future. And overall analysis, the property meets the eligibility requirements required for H2 overlay zoning and the Mills Act program, and that the property has been identified by a qualified architectural historian to be a significant local historic resource, and granting the contract will serve to offset the cost of maintaining that resource. The maintenance schedule is submitted and attached to the resolutions. With that, staff's recommendation is that HPC adopt the resolutions to recommend the rezoning to PC and City Council, and also to recommend to City Council of a Mills Act contract for the property. With that, that concludes staff's presentation. I know the applicant is also here in the room if you have any further questions. Thank you.
Okay, that's great, Matthew. Could we have the applicant identified and maybe the owners who are here, please, before I ask the commissioners for any questions? Yes, sir. You can stand and tell us your name, please. Okay, one of the owners, I believe. Yes. Great. Oh, great. Good to see you, Meg. Great. Wonderful. Thank you. Thank you very much. Now, if I can ask the commissioners, do you have some questions of the city staff or owners applicant? Yes, Gerald.
I'm wondering, since the property is, used to be connected to the Scott Street, and since it has such a long Scott Street frontage, why it's also, or why a decision was made to give it a Larkin street address?
The street address, the reason for the street address change, I honestly don't know. This happened many years ago and was not tied to this project in any way. When you look it up on the city's mapping system and what's on file with the county, the address is 581 Larkin Street. So apologies for the unclarity there. It's just it used to be, and I am not sure what year it changed over either.
I am wondering if it perhaps had to do with the house that previously was there, although it didn't seem to predate or be as important as a residence as the Kellen home on Scott Street. But I understand we really don't know why it was changed. So thanks for trying.
Mhm.
Yeah, it's interesting. The steps are still there from that previous house. I've always wondered about that step still. I read this very good write-up. So anyone else? Yes,
Yeah,
Carol.
I noticed on the maintenance schedule, which shows a lot of outlay, God love them. The furnishings is included. Is that standard? We don't usually have furnishings as part of the maintenance plan, do we?
That is fair. It is typically reserved for the exterior of the house or significant interior portions.
Okay, thank you. It's peanuts compared to the rest of.
Yeah, that's a
Fair
good
enough.
point though, Carol. Anyone else? Yes, Carol Dawson.
I had a couple of questions about the maintenance schedule. There is a significant amount of concrete work. I was just wondering what that was, and then also windows and doors. And then I was just curious what recycling and garbage was down at the very end, but I don't see any, I don't think it has any cost associated with it.
I'm pulling up the plan one moment.
Page 23.
Right.
And then I also noticed you've got a footing on the the downhill side of the house. Look at it, that's visible from Scott Street, and I'm assuming that's the start of the two-story addition. No patio or yeah, anyway, or a deck.
Clarification on the recycling and garbage may need to be directed to the applicant.
Okay, and then also the concrete and the window and doors. Well, there's a significant amount for concrete and then also for windows and doors.
I
I'm just wondering what that was.
believe it's associated with the application. It's within the first few years. It was mentioned that there's an application for a two-story
So that's
addition.
for the two-story addition. Okay.
Mhm. Okay. Any other questions from the commissioners? Would the applicant or the owners like to make any kind of presentation about your house? Or Meg, what did you want to?
Hello, Meg Clovis. I'm the historian who did the report. I just wanted to say that this is a remarkably historic property for the city of Monterey. It's been the same family for 123 years. And Frank Hellam was really a self-made man. He left school at 11 and came to Monterey when he was 19, built a business. And if you read the report, you saw that he sort of cobbled the house together. It was because he was newly married and he wanted to provide a home for his new wife. So the one picture that you saw that showed the house, it was not the garage in the back, that was the barn. And that barn was torn down some time ago. So I can answer any history questions if you have any. Okay, thank you.
Yes, thank you, Meg. Any other comments, or Erica, have we anyone from the public asking?
I see Geraldine's hands.
Oh, Gerald, I'm sorry, Geraldine.
Well, this may be a Meg question on page 4. There's a nice drawing of the outbuildings. I wonder if you could tell us, Meg, just which building is which and which are remaining, and, just kind of identify those for us. It's actually packet page 28, Meg's report page.
Oh, I have the Sanborn map. Is
Yes,
that what you're referring to?
yes.
Okay, so this is the 1926 Sanborn map. You can see the main house, but there's the one that says STGE, that's storage. Oh, I'm
Mhm.
sorry. That was the tobacco storage building that is still standing. Then the one that says A, that's for automobile. That's the garage, which is still standing. The little building at the corner that is no longer there, as well as the 3 little buildings, which I think were probably chicken coops that were on the edge at the border of the property. And then there's one other building that you see directly behind the house. That was the tack room that was associated with the barn. Anything else?
So the building that looks like it has, I can't tell if it's 2717 or, and there's a little one in the upper right side. Is that off the property?
Which one is this?
That's by the fence.
If, as I'm looking, it's the far right. building.
Yes.
The very, very far right, that's sort of rectangular.
That's
Mhm.
Yes, that was the house that was torn down in 1963.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
One there. And then the one that, that they use the rock material for the fence, that doesn't show on this because that happened
No,
previously.
he
His
tore that
property.
house down pretty soon, about 1905. His dad was living with them. He was a brick mason. So he not only built the chimney in the on the Del Monte Hotel, little Del Monte Hotel cottage that was moved to the property, but he also built that rock wall using the rocks that they saved from tearing down that other house.
We're glad he used them. They add a lot of charm to
They do.
the property.
Mhm. They do.
Anything else?
It's just wonderful. So much of it is intact from the early years.
It really is. It really is. A lot of integrity.
Thank you.
Yeah, and I think it's coming along beautifully. Just last night when I was there again, 3 couples walked by and they just love walking by and seeing everything that's changed, the plants, the new fence, the color of the door they mentioned, and the windows. We all really like the windows. So you're being noticed.
We had some questions for the applicant, I think.
Okay, for the applicant?
Yeah,
Oh, you
The-
have a question.
well,
Go right ahead.
there was the
Lynn.
question about the recycling and the garbage.
Right.
The
yes.
cost, but there's also a lot of items that are interior. Was the house being restored interior historically, or is it just being remodeled?
Next, interior, all the existing old growth redwood. So we're gonna maintain all.
Could you come up to because the recording can't hear you. I could hear you.
Yeah, we're basically doing a bit of both. We're kind of doing a kitchen remodel, and then when we exposed all of the interior walls, we found that it was all old growth redwood. So we literally exposed the whole house inside and maintained all of that. And we kitchen floors and bedroom floors were all covered with, linoleum and plywood and just over the years. And then when we stripped all that back, we found all the existing flooring,
Oh,
and
great.
we salvaged all of that. And
Excellent.
Yeah.
That is.
and all the
excellent.
interior doors and so
Excellent. That's great.
yeah.
So, and then the recycling and the garbage that normally, I don't think the Mills Act covers that kind of thing, but I don't know.
Typically, no, that is correct. That's an oversight on my part.
Okay.
Unless it's
Okay, 'cause there are-
construction.
Well, it's all to do with all clearing the lot and just, roofing. We had a new roof put on, so just
Okay. So that normally would be probably included in the roofing would, so it's just been separated out from your construction.
we just kind of, we itemized everything.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay. Yes, Julie.
A question probably for staff, but for the applicant as well. The Mills Act is covering just the primary residence, not the outbuildings.
For this Mills Act, it would include both the primary dwelling and the 3 that were identified in the PowerPoint presentation. It would
Okay.
include all 4 items there.
So then the maintenance agreement theoretically should cover
It includes
exterior
Yes.
Building.
and those-
costs related to the outbuildings.
Yes,
Okay.
and those are identified at the top of the maintenance schedule where it mentions the scope of work.
Okay.
Mm.
And then just for the applicant, so the 2023 costs and 2024 costs, I think you mentioned, or it was alluded to that the, some of these are associated with the addition that's planned, like
Yes.
permit costs and things like
Correct.
that.
You're okay now? Okay, anybody else? Carol, you?
Well, if you're building a new building, that wouldn't come under Mills Act contract, correct?
That is correct. The Mills Act should cover only existing development that is deemed historic and is noted in the historic report that is provided.
Okay, so.
So
that-
I would encourage the commission to make alterations to the maintenance schedule to specify that.
Okay, so then there shouldn't be anything on this, on the maintenance schedule with regards to the new building.
Okay,
So all the concrete work, I guess, windows and doors,
well,
that's all.
we still have concrete work to do in the other outbuildings as well. So it's all kind of, we put it, lumped it all into
Okay.
one category. So,
Okay, then I also had a question about the new, footing for the deck, I guess.
yeah, that's just in limbo right now, where permits due to be issued any day. So we just had this, we had it started, we stopped, we still have to get
Okay.
inspections and
I
then,
was
yeah.
wondering, that's for a deck, okay. Yeah, I was wondering about that too. Okay, all right. Anybody else have a comment or question? What about from the public, Erica? Do we have anyone there who wants to ask a question?
There are 2 attendees, however, there are no hands raised.
Okay, and so we'll close the public comments. And any other comments from the commission here before we make a motion?
I think my only quibble would be what's new and what isn't, and I don't know that it matters when the Mills Act is a reduction in taxes, so as long as they keep up the property and come close to, so, this is a lot of money for an existing house, but it's not nearly as much as they're gonna put into the new part, so I don't
Right.
know how it sorts out, and I wouldn't hold it up for the,
Well, and I assume the city will be on top of that.
Yeah,
Am
I would
correct?
recommend, if the commission was inclined to recommend, to the city council approval of the Mills Act contract, that a revised maintenance schedule be provided that only covers existing development for the historic properties.
Okay, that sounds good to me too. Okay, so does someone want to make that
I'm ready.
motion? Thank you, Geraldine.
I'm excited to make this motion.
Good.
So do we make two that includes the ordinance rezoning and the Mills Act? Are there two motions or one?
You can make one motion, but just specify to adopt a resolution for each.
Okay, then I make a motion that the city council adopt an ordinance rezoning the property at 581 Scott Street. It says, but they mean 581 Larkin Street. This address on different documents has been a little bit confusing. So we're rezoning it from an R36 to an R36H2. And that secondly, we recommend that the city council approve a Mills Act contract for the property at 581 Scott Street, now 581 Larkin Street. Is that right?
And if you wanted to include the condition of approval that a revised maintenance schedule be
Revised
submitted.
maintenance.
Yes, and we did have one recommendation, so we'd like to include the revised maintenance schedule in that motion.
Okay, any seconds on that? Okay, Carol, good. All right. So the Historic Preservation Commission has recommended that the Planning Commission recommends the City Council adopt an ordinance to rezone the property 581 Larkin Street as a city historic resource from R36 to R36H2. And the City Council approve a Mills Act contract for the property with a revised maintenance schedule, or what did I leave out there, Levi?
With
Just
with
a
revised maintenance.
revised maintenance schedule specifying that only the existing historic properties be covered.
Okay, that only historic properties be covered.
Mhm.
All
Existing
right.
historic.
Does that sound good, everyone?
Mhm.
All right, then why don't we go ahead and take a vote on this, please? And Erica, do you do
I can
that?
do a roll call vote.
Thank you.
Chair Column,
Aye.
Before we move forward, did we open it up for public comment?
I did.
Okay,
We just did.
sorry, just wanted to make sure.
That's okay.
We did before the motion. But we could,
All right, so Erica, you may continue.
Chair Column,
Aye.
Vice Chair Rath. Aye. Commissioner Barlow,
Aye.
Commissioner Dawson,
I,
Commissioner O'Neill,
Aye.
Commissioner Rodriguez,
Aye.
and Commissioner Smith Carvello.
I,
Okay, that motion carries with a vote of 7.
And I guess I was supposed to repeat too, that Geraldine Smith Crivello made the motion and it was seconded by Carol Dawson. So as long as we have that in the minutes too.
Thank you.
Okay, great. Then I think we can move on to our second public appearance here, which I believe is the signage. Thank you very much, folks, for attending. Good luck now. All right, the second public appearance is 498 Alvarado Street. We are considering a permit amendment for 4 wall signs, 2 projecting signs, and associated multi-tenant sign program. And I don't know, I don't think we have anyone here for 498 Alvarado Street. Matthew, are you doing the staff presentation?
I am indeed, and I believe that the applicant is online.
Oh, okay, great, great to know. Thank you. Okay, so
I will share my screen.
yes, you may go ahead. Thank you. Four, what did I say?
Good afternoon. My name is Matthew Buggert. I'm an associate planner with the City of Monterey's Planning Division, and today we're here to talk about 498 Alvarado Street, a sign permit amendment in front of HPC. The recommendation from staff is that HPC adopt a resolution approving the sign permit amendment. Some background on the property. It is H1 zoned. It is not under a Mills Act. It's a state historical landmark and a contributor to the National Historic Landmark District in downtown Monterey. The full name of it is the Juan Bautista Alvarado Adobe, and it is a 2-story rectangular plan adobe structure with frontages on Alvarado and Pearl Streets. The building served as the official residence of the governor from 1835 to 1836 and was the home of Don Juan Bautista Alvarado, the governor of California, from 1836 to 1842. Some background on the project. The request is that HPC approve business signage adjustments at the property. Existing signage was approved by the commission on December 9th, almost 2 years ago, 2021. And the building has existing signage that complies with all sign guidelines. Pacific Valley Bank, which is one of the current tenants of the building, has expanded into an adjacent tenant space, and Maurice, which is an existing tenant who shifted around a little bit over the past couple of years, has also moved into an adjacent tenant space. Additionally, repairs to the south wall, you may have seen it on your way here, will constitute repainting portions of the building and overall repairs to the building, which was approved by HPC a couple months ago, June 8th, 2023. The encroachment permit for those repairs was approved last Friday, and so they're hoping to get underway with those repairs soon. For the frontage along Alvarado Street, this is how the building looked previously when the sign permit went to you, and with some slight adjustments, Pacific Valley Bank on the left-hand side got some updated signage, and Maurice moved over. The tenant here at Pacific Valley Bank has moved into this tenant space over here. And so they now have two frontages facing Alvarado because this staircase here leads into the upper portions of the building up above. Maurice is staying here. There's 3 wall signs right now at the property, and all 3 of them are anticipated to move, or as part of this proposal, to be moved up on the building onto the foremost part of the fenestration, to be slightly more visible to visitors. Additionally, the signage here was a little scooted over to the right, and now it'll be directly over the tenant space. There's also 3 projecting signs, one of which is already on the Adobe structure, so it's not really experiencing alterations, but just for disclosure, there's 3 of them here. And those are the little thin signs projecting there, and you can see the second one here, and there's a third one way in the distance over here. The sign would be shifted up. So here it's on the pole, and here it would be moved up onto this newer portion of the building. And that is the entire proposal, to shift the signs from underneath the eave to a more publicly visible location up above. On the left side of the building, this is where the side fell off effectively during the storms earlier this year. And this is as it stands today, hopefully to experience some repairs and repainting. Previously, it looked like this. It was blank and just the Adobe wall there. And they are proposing a signage with the left tenant for Pacific Valley Bank, expanding the signage a little bit to be visible from around the corner for when people drive down the road heading towards the intersection. Sign consistency, the proposal, there's 3 findings for signage that's required, that it achieves the purposes and objectives of the sign ordinance. For that, the signage is supposed to remain relatively minimal, and the citywide sign guidelines are in place to enable that, not allowing more than 2 wall signs per storefront, not allowing a certain amount of sign size associated with each of the tenants. And the proposal as is complies with those sign guidelines of the city. That's more the fact that they're adjusting the location on the building. And finally, that the proposal is consistent with the general plan. It identifies a business. It's supposed to be equitable between all sign owners, and this is found to be generally consistent with that. Additionally, historic consistency, the adjustment was found consistent with the Secretary of the Interior standards for historic properties, in that the signage will not compromise the siding's integrity and is reversible. The repairs that are proposed on the left side of the building, the same methods that are proposed for that would be used for the sign holes that would be left on the lower portion of the building, just as indicated on the second half of this slide. We would use the repair methods as indicated by the approved plans from June of this year. And with that, staff's recommendation is that HPC adopt a resolution to approve the sign permit amendment for the adjustment in the location of the signs. With that, that concludes staff's presentation. I believe that the applicant is online as well. And if you have any questions, let me know.
Okay. So should we go ahead and ask the commissioners if they have questions, or should we hear what the applicant has to say?
Yeah, we'll go ahead and cover questions from the commission to staff, and then we'll move on to see if the applicant has a presentation.
All right. Does anyone have a question? Wait. Got you. I guess I'll go alphabetical. Carol, try you first.
Is this mostly because the bank is rebranding? Looks like a little different logo. Because we just did this a few years ago.
Yeah.
Yeah, it may be a question better directed to the applicant, but from what I know, the rebranding happened a couple of years ago, and since they're expanding into the adjacent space, that wasn't existing then, and so since they've moved, they wanted to add visibility to the two tenant spaces that they're now within.
It looked like a slightly different logo thing, but that's
Ye-
okay. It's not
You
terribly
get-
relevant.
Yes, the previous version of, the previous time they came in December of 2021, that was part of their rebranding. And so this new one is just adding more of the same branding.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Okay, great. Geraldine?
Yes, if you would put up the walls, the picture as it is today.
Absolutely, one
fa-
moment.
Facing Alvarado, please. You see on the kind of lower left-hand side of the bank, there is an existing sign that mentions, yes, that's it, the historic building. They don't mention it, but will that sign remain?
That sign will remain, yes.
Good.
Because I think it's important to have
It is
that
very
historic sign. And I remember, when we met a few months ago and they presented how challenging it's been in terms of, for the tenant to deal with the problem they had with the wall falling off and for the owner to try to get it replaced. And I mentioned that when we in the paperwork that you provided at the time, the planters were not considered historic or important to the building. Did they? It's a little bit apart from signage, but was there anything that addresses the planters?
As part of this application, no.
No, okay,
Um,
just like, for the record, no is good.
Mhm.
And there's nothing like a little wall of opportunity to see the fact that the wall is Adobe or some little informational sign for that. Nothing is appearing at this point. Signage that would talk about the wall materials, the Adobe materials.
Not as part of this application.
Okay, that's good. Thank you.
Okay, yes, Linda. you're
um,
next.
So the Pacific Valley Bank has the two signs. Is there an entrance like under both of those signs? Is that why they need the two signs or how does that work?
Yeah, so this is what used to be their one entrance. And since they moved into this space as well, this brown wood door here is another entrance to another tenant space. And when it comes to the sign guidelines, it allows it per storefront. And so having a wall sign for this storefront and allowing a wall sign for this storefront was considered acceptable.
Okay. All right, makes sense.
And I should clarify, the reason that we're coming to HPC is because it is zoned historic. So anything that goes on the building
Right,
comes through you.
that's true. Yes, Julie.
Yeah, a quick question, maybe for staff or maybe for the applicant. On the Pearl Street facade, the painting that's proposed, which makes sense, painting and into the adobe wall, you don't want to have any kind of drilled holes. Would this preclude any of the other tenants? If we would approve the painting of Pacific Valley Bank on that facade, would that preclude the other tenants from requesting kind of some branding or signage along the Pearl Street? Because I don't think there's pedestrian access into the bank from Pearl Street, right?
There is,
Just more, there is?
there is not.
Okay.
However, wall signage is allowed along pedestrian frontages,
Okay,
which includes the sidewalk area
Right.
here.
okay. So, but it's not limited just to Pacific Valley Bank because it would be for the whole building, right?
So any new signage that's proposed on the building would need to go through HPC once again.
Yeah,
As proposed right now, this is the shape and location that's being proposed. So for Pacific Valley Bank,
okay,
the city's able to regulate the size and location of signage, but we can't regulate the content. If in final design, that same parameter ends up including two tenants, that's a whole nother conversation for another day.
Okay.
But this is as proposed, and this is what we would expect when it goes on the wall.
Okay, great. Yes, Geraldine.
Along that line, are there additional tenants on the second floor of the building?
I don't think so. I think that's there.
That may be a question for the applicant because I don't know.
Yeah, why don't we?
I'm
hear
just
from him?
considering the potential for additional signage. Wondering if there are tenants, different tenants upstairs, or if Pacific Valley Bank uses the upstairs for their own
I think they do.
needs.
Yeah, I think they do.
That may be a question for the applicant.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, well, maybe we should hear from, it is the applicant, not the owner. Is it Mr. Mata? Is that how you pronounce it? John Mata?
John Motto is the applicant, not
Right.
the owner.
And he's the one who's online right now?
Yes.
Okay, perhaps we could hear from him?
Yes, can you guys hear me?
Yes, thank you.
No problem, thank you. Yes, they do use the office above the bank.
Mhm. Good.
And I thank Matthew for presenting. I think he did a great job presenting this application. So I really don't have a presentation unless you guys have any questions.
You answered
Did
my
any-
question.
Were all your questions answered, or did you want to?
My
present?
question was answered. I was just wondering
Good.
about potential for adding signs for tenants upstairs. He said that bank is the tenant upstairs, so we're.
Is, Mr. Mata, is there potential for tenants on the second story? Or will that continue, being used by the bank?
It's being used by the bank right now. I don't
Right.
have the exact answer if another tenant's gonna sublease it or anything, but I'm pretty sure that's belongs to that space.
Okay, so we'll deal with that if that happens, I guess, huh? Okay,
I have a question.
yes, Linda, one of our commissioners has a question, sir.
So, I just want to clarify with you too. There's two bank signs and two of the extending signs. Is that because there's two different doors with two different purposes?
Correct. So when the clients show up, they can go through each doors. And
Okay.
then also each tenant is allowed signage. So they're taking over that space. So they'd like to use it because they can.
Okay, I just wanted to see why there's two, but
Thank you.
Okay, great. Anyone else have a question? Well, yes, Commissioner Dawson's going to ask you a question, sir.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know whether you would know the answer to this, but the leather store, is it Mary's? Or I don't know how
Yeah.
to pronounce it, but I mean,
Women's
they
store.
theoretically could put signage on Pearl Street also.
Hmm,
Yes, but it's not really on their side of the building.
Oh, okay, so they couldn't really.
Yeah, and it's still limited based on the amount of frontage. So it'd be
Okay.
fairly limited based on the size of the proposed wall sign would significantly limit the amount of signage allowed.
right. Okay, yeah.
I would also just add, any new signage would come back to the commission. If it was decided that the new signage, in addition to what you're looking at today, is too much, you can tell the applicant to go back to the drawing board and have them, reduce the size of the sign or provide additional criticism or advice.
Okay. Is that all right with everyone then? All right, thank you very much. What about any public comments, Erica? Has anyone chosen to participate?
No, there are no other attendees online.
Okay, then we'll close that. Anything else from the commissioners, or perhaps we can go ahead and make a motion?
I'll move that we accept staff's recommendation for the sign for, what's the address?
4 wall signs.
The 4 wall signs on 498 Alvarado Street.
Right.
Thank you.
Right. Okay, very good. Second on that motion?
I'll second.
All right, thank you, Julie. All right, so the motion has been made and seconded. All in favor?
Oh, wait.
Oh, wait, I'm
excuse
sorry,
me.
Karen,
Could
what
we
I-
add the 2 projecting signs and the associated multi-tenant sign program?
I was wondering about that
Yeah.
too. Since I read all that earlier, yes.
Should be
Okay,
Complete.
yes, Commissioner Dawson is correct. We should add all the signage for the building. So do you want to make the motion again, or do we
I
have
have
to
a-
do that?
I have a question for
Oh.
Doc. Is the sign for the other tenant isn't changing though? Isn't this just about this is just about the bank's signage.
It's,
So,
They're moving it up.
They're
yeah,
moving it
so we're
Raise
not,
it, they're raising-
oh, the other tenant's moving it. Okay,
Yeah, right.
okay.
Yeah.
They're all moving.
They're all gonna be.
It's all gonna be up. Okay.
Okay.
And I believe everything was captured. If the motion was to accept staff's recommendation, then
Okay.
as presented, then it's all captured.
Okay, all right. So all in favor then?
Aye.
Okay.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, so the motion has been discussed, seconded, voted, etc. Okay, I think we're done with that too. So we do have one more public appearance here, the Sanchez Adobe, also on Alvarado. Let me just get my paper. You can see I divided them all three. Just made it easier. All right. So we are going to consider 414 Alvarado Street, application for a Mills contract. Applicant and owner Sanchez Adobe. So do I need to read all those different codes, Levi, or we're recommending, the Historic Preservation Commission is recommending that the city council approve a Mills Act contract for 414 Alvarado Street.
That's correct.
Good.
No rezoning associated with this request.
Okay,
Chairman, column, I will need to recuse myself from this item.
okay.
A business related conflict.
Oh,
Okay.
we certainly understand. We've had that happen before.
Let's not forget to get her.
Yeah. Okay, staff. Oh, we have a new staff person who's going to make a presentation, it looks like.
He changed his name.
Yes, my
Thank you.
name is Chris Schmidt. I'm a senior associate planner for the city of Monterey, and I've been working with the applicant on this request. So we're looking at a request for a Mills Act contract at 414 Alvarado Street, the Casa Sanchez or Sanchez Adobe. This site is already zoned historic. Is zone H1, which is our landmark historic designation. But just to begin with the presentation. So the staff recommendation is to adopt a resolution recommending the city council approve a Mills Act contract for the property. So here we see the site. It is located in the downtown on Alvarado Street. So again, it's zoned H1, which is intended to identify and protect the most important historic resources, our landmark resources. H1 zoning was applied to Adobe resources in March of 2000. Basically, the city went and rezoned all Adobes throughout the city in 2000. And that's specifically Adobes that were built prior to 1897, such as this property. So it is thought that this property was built in the 1820s, specifically 1820, sometime around 1826 and 1829, at the first story, and then the second story around 1849. And here we see an image, and I don't know the exact date of this, but certainly the surroundings don't appear that way today. And there's the Adobe. So you can see the cantilevered kind of Monterey style architecture with the Adobe at the first floor. And there it is again. So this space has been operated as many different uses. Barbershop, a candy store, a cigar and liquor store, and a bar, cafe, and / tavern. And what's not really described in the report itself, but is included in one of the attachments is the reasoning for significance of this site. So it's associated with Gil Sanchez. Sanchez was born in Mexico in 1800 and arrived in Monterey in 1830. He served as a town council member in Monterey, a saloon keeper, a police officer, and apparently, I also found this, a customs official at the Custom House. And he's also credited as one of the founders of Santa Clara College. So,
I know, that was interesting.
and then I just pulled a couple of tidbits. The site is one of 43 Adobe structures constructed in Monterey from the Spanish-Mexican colonial era. So it's you know, we don't have 43 of these really cool structures in Monterey. So character defining features, it has this cantilevered balcony with 4 wood posts, medium pitch, side gabled roof, 2 entry doors on the ground floor, single and double hung wood sash windows between the entry doors. Oh, there's a single double hung, excuse me. So analysis of the property meets the eligibility requirements for the Mills Act program, and there, in that the property is designated as a significant local historic resource, and granting the contract will serve to offset the cost of maintaining this resource. The applicant has submitted a maintenance schedule. So with that, staff is recommending that the HPC recommend approval of the contract to the council. Thank you.
Okay, yes.
Questions for staff? Is it, I'm wondering, you know, in the other applications, we had owners. This owner is an LLC. Does that mean it's not owned by a person? Or does that mean that person has a specific kind of ownership?
I would refer to the applicant on, he was going to explain who the owner is, but it's the Shake family owns the building through this LLC.
Okay,
Oh.
thanks. I just think it's nice to know, you know, to have,
I agree.
and what is that? What is the use of the building now? Is each floor owned by, used by different renters, or is it used by one renter?
I'm not sure at the second floor. I know it's a restaurant. There's a sushi restaurant there now.
Okay, thank you.
I have a question.
Yes, Linda.
So, I thought the Mills Act were for private residences. Am I wrong? Is it for commercial?
It can be
Buildings.
for any historically designated property.
Okay.
Yeah,
All right, okay.
it's a good question.
That's good to know for everybody. Clarification.
Anyone? Yes, Carol. Oh, should we, excuse me, should we bring Julie back?
No,
Or
she
oh,
don't-
this is
she
the
don't
one.
separate.
Okay, that's right. We're still,
Yeah.
that's right. I'm
I'm
sorry.
just curious about the fire hydrant fee. I've never seen that on
Good
a
question.
maintenance schedule before.
Yeah, it's a good question. I would ask the applicant if they could explain any questions about the maintenance schedule.
Oh, yeah, there it is. Anyone else have a question on the maintenance or? Is anyone online, applicant, owner? So it's nothing like.
He's in the
that.
audience.
Oh, I'm so sorry. Forgive me. I'm so busy. And could you introduce yourself, please?
Good afternoon. I'm Cody Phillips. I'm from Lombardo and Associates, and I'm here on behalf of the Shake family, Chris and his brother. I don't know if you want me to say anything now or if you just wanted me to introduce myself, but
I think it's fine to hear from you.
I would just, I can answer the question about the use of the second floor. So the
Yeah.
first floor is a sushi restaurant right now. The second floor is used for like office and storage space. For the sushi restaurant and for the shakes.
Okay.
So the question about the fire hydrant, that fee was incorporated just because that's a cost of operation there and general maintenance for that space. So if there's if there is an issue with having that on the maintenance schedule, I don't think we have an issue with removing it.
No, I didn't have an issue. I was just wondering what it was because I haven't seen that on a maintenance schedule before. So, does the fire department charge that fee or what? What is it?
That's the cost of it would
Okay.
be, I guess, from the city. Yeah.
Okay, like an alarm system. I know a lot of commercial buildings have those expenses too.
Right.
Okay, great, Cody.
And if you don't mind, I just would like to say that, the Shakes are very proud to own the building. They're stewards of Monterey's history and have been very excited to have this space. And they're committed to maintaining and preserving this building for the foreseeable future. They hope that they can pass it down in their family for generations. So they're committed to making sure that whatever they need to do to keep this building in the shape that it would have been in the 1800s for the foreseeable future. And yeah, if you have any other questions that I can help, I'm not an architect or a historian, but
That's okay.
okay.
Yeah, I'm hoping it's a better condition than it was in the 1800s.
Yeah,
So,
definitely.
Well, I would also mention that there is in the cities, when this was designated, and it's in your packet, that historic preservation plan. There's a list of recommendations for, if a chunk of wall falls off, like at that other building on Alvarado, what you need to do to replace it, and how to ensure that the integrity of the exterior is retained to the Department of the Interior standards. So certainly that would be the procedure that the applicant would follow, owner would follow, and that would all be addressed in detail in the Mills Act, in the actual contract that gets signed between the city and the applicant as well. So
Okay, great. Yes,
I'm
Gerald.
ready to make a motion.
Okay, could I just ask one thing of our city staff? It may be a typographical mistake here, but that H1 zoning is applied only to Adobe resources built prior to, you said 1897, in our materials here, it says 1879. Is that just a typographical turned around 79, 97?
I think it is 79. I think it's just an
Okay.
error in the PowerPoint. Yeah.
Okay,
It felt odd saying it out loud just now. So
did it?
I think you're right.
Well, thank you,
Yeah.
Chris. You notice I even have it highlighted.
Yeah.
I read this. Okay, very good. Thank you. That's all. So why don't we go ahead? Oh, what about the public? Is there any
Yes. Can we remind the public how they can participate?
questions from the?
Definitely, once again, to join our meeting via Zoom, you can dial 833-568-8864, then enter the webinar ID. Today's webinar ID is 161-739-7120. To provide public comment via Zoom, please use the raise your hand function at the bottom of your screen. To provide comments by phone, you can dial *9 to raise your hand and *6 to unmute when called upon. Public commenters will be announced using their last 3 phone number digits or the name they've typed into Zoom. There are currently no attendees online.
Okay. Right. Okay, and I just want to say, I'm sorry I did not acknowledge you properly, Cody. But thank you we appreciate you being here. Thank you. Now we can continue with the motion. Yes,
I'd
Geraldine.
like to make a motion that we adopt a resolution to recommend that the city council approves the Mills Act contract for historic resources for the property of 414 Alvarado Street.
Any second on
I'll
that?
second it.
All right, Linda has seconded that. So the motion recommending the city council approve the Mills Act contract for 414 Alvarado Street has been made by Geraldine Smith Crivello and seconded by Linda Rath. Thank you. And how do we all feel about that? Let's take a vote here. Do you want to do just a group vote, Erica, or do you want to do a roll call?
Whatever you prefer, I can do a roll call vote if you'd like.
Sure, let's do that. We didn't do it on the other two, so
Sure. Chair Collins,
aye.
Vice Chair Rath. Aye. Commissioner Barlow has recused. We have Commissioner Dawson,
Aye.
Commissioner O'Neill,
Aye.
Commissioner Rodriguez,
Aye.
and Commissioner Smith Crivello.
Aye.
Okay, that's approved with a vote of 6.
Great. Okay. Thank you very much for coming and representing a well-known family. Yes, why don't we get Julie back in here? That would be great. Yeah, I didn't know. Did any of you know that? About the shake zoning
Well,
this?
I called yesterday to, because I wondered who owned it and just asked if somebody could be prepared for that question today, because it's just interesting when it's a corporation. I like to know if it's a local person or if it's a corporation from.
That's a good question, I thought.
So I personally was happy to know it's a local person that owned it and wanted to preserve the building. I thought that was
Yeah,
that was
no,
good to
yeah,
know.
very
When they
happy.
bought it?
Does it?
It's
it
not, I'm
didn't
wondering if
matter.
it's more recent. I wanted to ask that, Carol, but I didn't think I really should.
I talked to Cody today about it.
Yeah.
He said it was a few years ago. It was in the news.
Mhm.
Is what he said. I never saw the article.
We missed that. Huh. Oh, thank you, Chris, very much. All right, so let's move on then. I think we're done with all of the public appearances and voting.
Hearings, public hearings.
Public hearings, I mean, I'm sorry, what am I doing? Public hearings. All right, let's see, are there any commission comments about anything else?
I would like to hear a little bit about Julie's background, just I'm curious.
Well, I asked Erica that earlier today too, and it was entirely
It's up to you.
Julie. But
If you're-
since we have time, we got through this pretty quickly,
Yeah,
Julie.
no, I don't mind sharing, and I'm excited to meet each of you and learn from you all. So thank you for the warm welcomes. I have been a resident of Monterey for about 15 years. My husband and I moved from San Francisco when our daughter was baby. I'm an urban planner by profession, so still work in that line of work. Have some connections here with the planning staff, but I'm in the consulting field, and most of my projects are up in the Bay Area at this point, so not a lot of conflict. Super fascinated by history and how that evolves and how that becomes a functioning part of day to day in Monterey, and seeing those properties kind of reemerge and become a function, become alive. So I this is something that I've been really interested in pursuing. I know my husband was on the board a few years ago, so I think it's when he recused himself, I was able to look for an opportunity, and I'm excited to learn with y'all. Thank you.
Welcome.
It's good to have you, for sure. And yes, Geraldine.
I wanted to mention that we approved a Mills Act for their home
Yeah.
a
Yes,
few years ago.
Yes,
Yeah,
So,
and that was the reason why Chris had to step down,
right.
because there was the conflict
Right.
then, so.
Yes.
but you've been through the process as an applicant as well as now being on the commission. I think that gives you some perspective, as it does Carol Dawson and
Right.
some others that have been active on
Yeah,
our commission.
it's true.
Great.
That is true. Any other comments from any of you? How about the staff? Go ahead, Carol.
Just,
Yeah, we're
the
gonna have
White Star Lighthouse, do you know this? We're gonna go ahead with the Halloween tours this year. On the 21st and 28th, they're fundraisers, and we just got everything put together with state parks, which is like pulling teeth. And our haunted house is going to be haunted by Linda, who has
Oh my
stepped up.
I'm just decorating.
Decorating.
I'm not
Yeah,
haunting, I'm
and so
decorating.
Spent enough time down there. So anyway.
How
that's-
scary is it?
Dave, is that?
Well, it's
How
really-
scary is it?
Really scary.
Really?
As the tour is family friendly and it's kind of hokey. The building, if you've ever been in there at night, it's really scary.
Yeah.
It's a-
It's been a really long
Is it
time.
on
My
Halloween?
2-year-old is obsessed with Halloween though.
Oh, yeah, it's
Oh, yeah,
not,
most kids-
it's not for little tiny kids, just because it's kind of a.
It might be
long-
scary.
You take the tour up to the lighthouse and up to the top, and so probably 6 and over is what we
Cool.
recommend. So
Mhm.
we'll send you in 4 years. You'll be
Yeah.
hearing from.
Sounds good.
Yeah,
What are the dates again?
the 21st and the 28th.
The 2 Saturdays.
Okay.
2
before
Saturdays.
10,
before.
21, and
That's
10,
great.
28. Great.
I have one.
Yes, Geraldine.
I'd just like to say, we're just coming from a big festival down at the plaza for the Santa Rosalia Festa Italia. And I thought it was really fun. The community turns out, they bring busloads of people in
They're only
and
there for the cannoli.
the cannolis and the arancinis. You can't get arancinis during the year. And they sell out Saturday nights. So I thought it was really a successful festa right downtown, accessible to everybody. And it was one of the best. It starts out at the church with a little procession with the saints. So it has some traditional aspects. They mention the names of each of the fishermen lost at sea from the community, and put a wreath in the water for the safety of the fishing fleet. And then you have all kinds of Italian music, and in the evening, even contemporary music, both the Money Band on Friday and the 831 All Stars that had a little more Latino beat on Saturday. It was packed. So
It was
Friday
every
through
day, every
Sunday.
day.
So I think if you haven't ever gone, it'll happen again next year, second weekend of September. I
right.
thought it was great. Unfortunately, and this goes to the next area, the Monterey Bay Greek Festival I heard was canceled. So
Oh,
I'm
it
not sure
was?
why it was in the paper. So I don't know. I don't know why, no. And that would be coming up this next weekend. So I'm not sure what happened there. I saw an
Well,
announcement. Maybe, if I'm wrong, I hope I'm wrong. You saw that too. Okay.
And we
Sorry.
never had the Celtic Scottish, so I'm very upset about that with the
Mhm.
shamrock around my neck. I wanted to ask, are you participating in the parking day Friday, the little parklets
Tomorrow.
in the parking spaces on Alvarado from about 10 to 2:30? I see the city manager's offices, the city clerk's offices, fire departments. This was in today's Herald.
Yeah.
Um,
On the last page of our agenda too.
Wait a minute. Wait, I just had that, Geraldine.
3 pages.
I know.
97.
And
It's
you
on
notice
page
I took the
97.
time to separate all these hearing things. Is it on there? Oh, yeah, there it is. There it is. That's right.
97.
That's why I highlighted first and then I looked at the paper. After that is when I just saw it. So, yes. So yeah, 10 to 2:30. So I've never seen that. Have any of you? I know they've done it
Something new.
before.
What is it?
What is it?
Well,
saw
it's,
the
I think
article
it's
and
to
everybody-
appreciate nature more. Is that mainly, isn't it about, oh, good, Levi. You have the floor.
Yeah, well, yeah, I feel like all my thunder's been stolen from the planning update between, the Greek festival and this. Yeah, so it's kind of a reimagining the use of parking spaces. So along Alvarado, if you go down there, you'll see different, is that correct?
Yeah, so what is done is the street side parking stalls, the parallel parking stalls have been repurposed as basically like little parklets.
Right.
And so I think the Parks Division comes and rolls out like real sod and it's there for the day and they're decorated and I think they're protected and encouraging people to go check it out and
Mhm.
hang out and
Kind of an excuse to draw people down
I
to
can't.
Alvarado.
yeah, and also kind of a philosophical thought exercise of, what if we could make better use of our space
Yeah.
to encourage more open space and nature and
Right,
less cars,
The-
walk more.
right.
Demonstration, so to speak.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
what's interesting, those are really parklets. Thinking back on the restaurants called those parklets too, but a lot different,
Yeah, there's definitely a distinction between like an outdoor dining area
Right.
and then like a, so to speak, parklet. Yeah.
Yes. So, yeah, I'm gonna go check that out for sure. Okay, yeah, I had that highlighted. I don't know how I missed it.
And nature, taking away a parking space. It's
Yeah.
not as clear as coal or solar.
Right, right. So is there anything else from anyone, city?
I'll just
Commission?
wrap up the planning update real fast. We are I did have on here the Bay Creek Festival for the 22nd to the 24th, but it sounds like that's no longer happening. So disregard that. But the Monterey Jazz Festival also is noted on here, September 22nd to the 24th.
Okay,
And that's
very
all we
good.
have. We tentatively, we're still on for October 12th HPC meeting. We don't have any items right now scheduled for it, but if no items are ready to go by that time, we'll send out a cancellation notice, but go ahead and plan on it for now.
Sounds good. Well, before I adjourn, I just want to say I'm sorry. I it's my first meeting doing this and I was a little shaky. I just shared it with Erica quickly. I fell
Oh,
getting my shoes in the kitchen. I knocked over a stool, fell on my knees, so they're a little swollen. And my
Let's give her-
finger,
Let's give you
quarter
cheer
four,
for a
quarter
great-
four.
had a
that
great
happened.
first meeting. Good job.
Just going out the door, gang. So I'm really sorry. Thank goodness I had my water and a lot
I
to
think
calm
let's
me
close-
down.
we can close the
So
meeting.
thank you. Let's close the meeting and have